No, I didn't.
Yeah. I like Bobby's son got cut off. He's like flailing out. I finally gave me both the swords and at least one gave me like 5 times.
You can Google him on Wikipedia and find out a lot about him. And I'll just tell you a little bit about him. He's a emeritus professor at the University of Hawaii, currently adjunct professor of sociology and statistics at Arizona State University. He's a NASA solar system.
A little bit. I'm not as smart as her.
Yeah, that's so.
Well, I had some recently. Few recently.
No, I don't.
Still
On the way out of Houston, he said it was real and the kid was going to ring the bell. How's it guys doing down here?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Do you have any cards?
I don't, but
Trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes, listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Lubbock, Texas, a church without creed or dogma that supports the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. My name is Peter Westfall, and I will be your service leader for today. I now invite you to turn and greet one another.
how are you?
I brought a couple of things. Not one of them I can't bring, but we have them in a set.
Are there any visitors who would like to introduce themselves or be introduced? That's enough conviviality. Are there any visitors who would like to introduce themselves or be introduced? Well, maybe some of you know, but I'd like to... Oh, go ahead, Jennifer. Sorry. What's his name again?
Reading.
Bob Winkle.
Bob. Welcome back, Bob.
His wife, Debbie.
Welcome back, David. I think you guys named him before. I'd like to introduce Joe Hilbe, who presented a farm. Please stand, Joe.
Let's stand.
We're happy to have him visiting today. Any other visitors? Yeah, please. Hi, Vince. Nice to see you.
And I'm Tiffany Sanchez, my fiance Andrew Teal, and my son Aiden.
Welcome all. Everyone is welcome to participate in our church community. This is a democratic organization with an open pulpit. Each of our services is different as we present many points of view that reflect our diversity of beliefs and understandings. We encourage each of you to join with us in our open-ended exploration of the truth. If you have decided to identify yourself as a Unitarian Universalist by formally becoming a member of this congregation, please speak with one of the membership committee representatives after the service. Would the membership committee please identify yourselves by raising your hands or standing? Fine group of people there. Okay, I now invite somebody here. Let's see, I guess Lynn, you're closest. I'm going to have to invite you to the light the chalice. The chalice is a symbol of our community, our many lights forming one flame, and the chalice lighting words are number 682 in the hymnal. If you could reach under your seats, there should be a hymnal down there. I'll give you a second to find number 682, and please read it along with me. It's from the native Indians of, from the Navajo Indians of North America. One of my favorite readings personally. Beauty is before me, and beauty behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. In my youth, I am aware of it. And in old age, I shall walk quietly the beautiful trail. In beauty it is begun. In beauty it is ended. At this point, I'd like to invite a couple special folks up here to help me sing a song. And you're all welcome to kind of sing along if you want, or just listen to us. Just whatever. There's a this is a song called "Across the Universe" by the Beatles.
You can tell he was a Boy Scout, he's very prepared.
What's the problem? No, it's okay.
Across the universe.
teachers can't do. There are lots of things that regular people can do, but teachers can't. Teachers can't ride skateboards or scooters to school. They can never be tardy. Teachers can't buy their own apples, and they can't teach their best without flowers on their desk. Teachers, they can spell Mississippi and encyclopedia, but somehow they can't spell cat. They can never quite remember what 2 + 2 is either. Teachers can't write on the chalkboard without squeaking. They can't sit in little chairs, even for a story time. And they can't use a hall pass to go to the bathroom. Teachers can't cut in front of the line. Well, okay, every once in a while. But they aren't allowed to trade desserts. Teachers may not finger paint in their good clothes. And they can't see out of the backs of their heads. Well, maybe. Teachers can't go down the tube slide at recess. They can twirl, but they can't jump. Teachers can't cry if they skin their knees. Can they? Sometimes teachers forget. No snoring during quiet time. Teachers can't seem to feed the salamander or guinea pigs all by themselves. And sometimes they need help finding them. Teachers can never run out of smiles or smiley faces. And teachers can't wait to come back to school tomorrow. But first, they really need some help cleaning the blackboards and the erasers. No one knows why there are so many things that teachers can't seem to do. Maybe it's because they're doing the things that they do best of all. Teaching you.
The children are now dismissed to their classes and activities. This week to share events of personal significance, sources of joy and sorrow, milestones and anniversaries. To share, please stand as you are able. If you like, I will light a candle to mark the shared significance, and please be considerate so everyone who wishes may share it. Are there any joys and concerns today? Yeah.
I'd like to light a candle for Pete Stark, the congressman who said he was a humanist.
And he's a Unitarian Universalist too.
And he's a Unitarian Universalist too.
Pete Stark, he's from California, right?
Right.
Very rare. Yeah. Leanne.
My father for Peter's brother who's getting out of hospital today with, he's had a heart stent put in, too.
Susan.
I have a joy to share. Friday night we went to the local Heroes Banquet honoring Sarah McCarty for all her service to the Democratic Party.
Can you tell us a little Susan, please stand up, tell us a little more about that. I think a lot of us would like to know a little bit more about that. Well, Sarah, can you tell us what this is? This is, I mean, does everybody know about this? This is really something fantastic.
I'm a Democratic, the Democratic Party, local party, the county committee chooses a local hero every year. And this year I got to be the local hero. Those flowers were part of the celebration and I brought them to show the holiday.
You yellow rose.
Great news. You know, Leanne.
joy is that the Border Collie German Shepherd puppies that were supposed to be like 12 or 10 or 11 of them, there's only 2. So we will be looking for a home for 2 boy black puppies in about 8 weeks. So the good news is there were only 2.
Richard?
We did light a candle for Bill Watkins. He had open heart surgery Monday, and we visited him Wednesday, and I carried it, and he's currently doing all right. He wanted to come to the service today, but the doctor says, no, you better not do that. But he should be home soon.
Bill is a geologist. Carolyn?
I just wanted to, a lot of us remember Linda Olson Lee, and she was diagnosed with an early breast cancer. She had an operation this week, and apparently everything went very, very well. So hopefully, I'm going to call her. I didn't get a chance to talk to her, but I'll do it this weekend and find out more.
Where is she living now?
She's still in Brennan, down by Houston. It's about an hour and a half.
Some of you may remember Linda as a previous storyteller who created this Listen with Your Heart program where she put reading of children's stories along with music and had it all timed out amazingly well. It was quite incredible. Yeah, 20.
Peter, would you light a candle for a dear friend of Mildred's and mine? And some of you may know him too. He was a Spanish educator, Spanish language educator in college of education for many, many years. He's in his late 70s, has been healthy, and the kind of person who helps everybody else. And he's been diagnosed with liver cancer, stage 4, and chemotherapy has started. And he's a wonderful, kind gentleman, and we're hoping the best for him. Thank you for your thoughts.
Sorry to hear that.
Ralph Carter.
Yeah, Justin?
Well, the joy is my parents who just moved to Clovis 2 weeks ago, they were harmed by the recent crash of tornadoes was there. And a concern for those who were hurt and harmed.
Thanks for sharing.
I have a concern, we got a call this morning that our nephew was shot in the car by a black son.
Gee whiz. Sounds terrible. On Wikipedia page, so if you're interested in finding out something about him, you can Google Hilbe in Wikipedia at the same time, and you'll come up with lots of interesting information. I'd say that Joe is probably a Renaissance guy. He's got his fingers in all kinds of things, including statistics, which is how I got to know him, but he's also has a degree in philosophy, I believe, and he's written books and papers in philosophy, and as you know, he's interested in science and meteorites, and we have lots of interesting meteorites here. He's maybe not going to talk about those so much now as he did previously, but certainly you're all welcome to take a look at those. They're real meteorites from the moon and Mars and all kinds of interesting places. He's a, well, he's lots of things. he's got a national record for track and field. Let's see, what is this? He's 2 of them, right? 2 national championships. He's involved in the Special Olympics. He's Goodwill Games, I guess, no, not Special Olympics. He was hired by Turner Broadcasting System to serve as athletics broadcaster for the 1990 Goodwill Games. And he is just all over the place. He's a member of the Center for Naturalism, and we thought that would be a great thing for the service to talk something, or well, I mean, his involvement with that group is very much consistent with the kinds of things we like to present. And I'm just incredibly pleased that Joe is here. And so, Joe, I think I'd like to just turn it over to you at this time.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, it wasn't Special Olympics. I was the lead competition official at the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. So it was, but sometimes some of the kids there could be Special Olympians, especially the attitudes. There's no question. Well, I thank you very much for inviting me here. What I'd like to do today is to kind of give a sense of our place in the greater reality, in the solar system, in the universe, and I'm going to show some images of our solar system and the sun and the Milky Way and talk a little bit about that. But the point's going to be, and I want you to think while we do this, about how we ourselves as human beings fit in this whole thing. When you look at the universe and how huge it is, and the time frame that we're talking about, the billions of years, not just the 70 some odd years that we live or may live, plus or minus on Earth, but the tremendous amount of time of how we got here, and our planet, and how tiny and fragile it is. One of the things that always struck me as just being truly amazing was a picture that was taken from about Uranus or Neptune. It was a Pioneer, I think it was, and it looked back on the solar system and took a picture of the Earth. And there was another one that came out recently. I think it was, you can see it on the web. And it was a picture, and you could see the Earth, and they just spotted it was in one of the rings of Saturn. They were out there at Neptune, and looking back at toward the sun, and there was the Earth, just a tiny, tiny little dot, embedded just on the edge of the ring of Saturn. And they were taking a picture of the Saturn, and they really didn't think that the Earth was going to be there, but there it was. And you think, that's where we are. That's where our whole human history is. Everything that we know, everything that we love, everything that we know about. That's all there is. And that's just start of it. I mean, in terms of space, we're just beginning. So this is what I want to try to share with you today, is kind of my perspectives and the feeling. I love philosophy and taught philosophy for over 20 years. I like statistics. I like everything. It's like a lot of you maybe like to parallel lives and just do this and then do this and this and this and try to grab and put everything you can into one life. And fortunately, I've been lucky to do some of that. But there's just not enough time. There simply is not enough time. But please, as we go through this, think about where we are in this whole thing. Our solar system formed out of a gaseous region in space. And right now we can see somewhere in the Milky Way galaxy. That's our own galaxy. One of hundreds of billions of galaxies. But in our galaxy called the Milky Way, and that was formed, of course, by the ancient Greeks and many peoples before that, and looking up in the sky, and you see all these little tiny little dots that almost look like milk, and so Milky Way is what we came down to. Other cultures had different names, to be sure, but this is what we kind of used. But we were in a kind of like this Eagle Nebula is what they think, and NASA and most people that are involved with astrobiology, look at and think that we formed into something, because this generates lots of stars. And our sun was formed in a bunch. Stars usually form in a bunch of stars, and then they start to wander off wherever they may go. So we've got twins out there. We don't really know which one is, where it is, because it's, 4.5 billion years ago. And so things happen. We've gone around the solar system a few times since then, too. So we lose track of our brethren that way. But we do have other stars that we have. But we were formed in something like that. And our solar system, the different planets, as it created, the gases started to combine. I'm going to kind of go fast through here because a lot of you may be familiar with it, and there's other points we want to get to. But the gas is just sitting out there, and maybe some kind of a shock from a supernova explosion or whatnot just starts this gas to start to combine. And then the gravitational attraction of that gas just starts imploding upon itself. And at a certain point, there's so much gas, and it's bearing down on itself that it gets so heavy that there's so much gravitational attraction that it starts to blow up. And so we've got our sun in the center of all of this gas. It started as a proto-sun, and then as a sun, is explosions, nuclear explosions blowing out. At the same time, there's so much mass pushing in, and so you've got this balance of this sun. And slowly and surely, it's eating up and turning hydrogen into helium. And at a certain point, in about 4.5 billion years from now, we're gonna, it's gonna eat itself out of that helium. It's at middle age now, and things are gonna happen. Things are gonna happen to the Earth too. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But the various planets formed here too, and they accreted. Materials just start to accrete and get together, and then there's We have asteroid belts, and we've got in between Mars and Jupiter, and we have, what, 8 planets now? They've declassified Mars as a planet now. Pluto, not Mars, jeez, Pluto. We're in that's really great, yeah. I didn't know it's so
Poor
much.
Mars.
Our Milky Way galaxy looks pretty much like this, they think now, that it's a barred spiral galaxy. And that we're going to be somewhere right around out in here. And I'll show kind of a map of where we are. Okay, we're about 8,000 light years. And a light year is how long it takes for light, the distance it takes light to travel in 1 year, going 186,000 miles a second. That's a long way. So in 28,000 years, approximately, light traveling that fast it takes just to get to the center of our Milky Way from where we are. But that's pretty much what our galaxy looks like. But we've got a few other little things too that are going on. Here's the structure of our Milky Way. And down here at 11, our sun is right here. And this is called the Orion arm. It's kind of a splinter arm off of these two arms here. And I've called them the Perseus and the Sagittarius arm. And actually, if you look in the sky, you know where Sagittarius is. You know, for the constellation, if you look right straight through, that's right toward the center of the galaxy. So we're right along in this right here. So we're about 2/3 of the way out. Okay, just looking at our galaxy flatways, we're pretty thin here. It's about 10 light years thick and 100,000 light years in diameter. Okay, and here we've got some, I guess we're 50,000 light years from the galactic center. Okay, we've got two. I've got another one that's coming. We've got two galaxies that are actually crashing in to the Milky Way, our Milky Way galaxy right now, that they only discovered just a few years ago in the 1980s, and again just in 2004 was where they found another one. And it kind of looks like this. This is an artist's rendition of what it would look like, the one. And the other that's even closer to us it looks like this. So if we're looking down on our galaxy, you see the kind of the red area. That's where this other galaxy is. And they call us the Canis Major dwarf galaxy. And Canis Major is like the Big Dipper. So we've got that, and that's not that far from the Earth. That's 25,000 light years from the Earth. Is where this other galaxy is. So it's going to affect our own galaxy, and it affects it in ways we don't know because we can only see part of it. So our universe and the world around us is always changing. In fact, and we'll talk about this later, and I'll just mention it, our closest huge galaxy, Andromeda, is going to be crashing into our Milky Way, and it's going to cause some concern for any living beings that may be existing then. There's other facts about the Milky Way, about how big it is. I've already mentioned that, and the diameter and where we are at the center of the galaxy, and about how long it takes our solar system to circle the galaxy. Our solar system, remember, is about 2/3 of the way out, and it takes 250,000 years, to go one time around. So a quarter of a million years just to go around once around our galaxy. Okay, there's a kind of an idea of our planets and where we are, so we're going to focus a little bit more. It's not very good here, but there's Jupiter and there's Mars coming. There's a big gap in there, and we have asteroids that are interior between Jupiter and Mars. That's where come meteorites, and these meteorites over here. And if you can come up afterward, and then we've got Mars rocks and some moon rocks and other rocks from Vesta and other asteroids, whatnot, that are on here. And the outer ones are Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and you see way down in there is Mars. So there's really a lot of space is taking up here. Okay, these are just some facts. We won't go over this because there's some other things, and you can get this out of books or anything about the distances, how far things are on here. We'll make available to you if you'd like. If anybody's interested, in contact Peter, the PowerPoint slides for this if you'd like.
John, I wanted to say you have a pointer on the upper right hand on that thing. Upper right hand, there's a little laser pointer.
And that goes.
That's
That's good. I remember stuff all the time. Okay. So we can go back to this if we need. Here's something that I think is interesting. It's the distances from the sun. And this gets our perspective. If you think of the Earth, okay, what are we almost, what is it, 7,926 miles in diameter? It's almost 8,000 miles in diameter. You put that down to a millimeter, which is just about that size. Now, if we look at and think about that, all of our humanity down to a millimeter, okay, the Earth is 11.7 meters, or about 38 feet from the sun. Okay, given that the Earth is here. So it's a long way, it's 93 million miles. Now we start going out, and you look at Jupiter, 200 feet. Uranus, 741 feet. Neptune, Pluto, 1,520 feet. The closest star to us is Alpha Centauri. Proxima Centauri is kind of a collection of stars, not a binary, but a trinary, or what, 3 or 4 different stars together. The largest of those is Alpha Centauri. Given that our Earth is only a millimeter, it's 2,000 miles away. That's huge when you think about it. And that's the very closest star in our galaxy, which is one of hundreds of billions of galaxies. Then we have the center of the Milky Way. It takes us 13 million miles, given the Earth being just 1 millimeter, and to the closest large galaxy is 1.07 billion miles, given that our Earth was just a millimeter. And that's just our closest neighbor, in a large neighbor galaxy. In the collection, there's 30 galaxies. Most of them small. There's 2 large ones, Andromeda and the Milky Way, that are in what's called a local group of galaxies. And then we are being affected by a Virgo cluster and a Virgo supercluster. And everything is in relative motion to each other. And you think of the vast, vast distances that are involved here, and how very tiny we are, you know, on our own planet compared to just some of the things that aren't astronomically very far away at all.
How close are those 2 galaxies that you mentioned that were just discovered?
Okay, I had it on there. One was, what was it?
42.
42 light years away, and the other was, I think, 25 from the Earth.
I'm just trying to get it comparative to this.
Yeah, so it would be like almost as, yeah, it would be almost like we were talking about the center of our galaxy. So the one was at the center of the galaxy, and another would be about double the distance.
So they're still extraordinarily far away.
They're still extraordinarily far away from us. Andromeda is approaching us at like 700,000 miles an hour. Is going to be crashing into the Milky Way in 4 billion years. And the Earth may be just, you know, the sun just cast right out of the solar system. We just don't know. But we're going to have a lot of other problems beside that.
We won't.
We will.
And just a quick thing on how fast we're moving. You think about relative motion. When we're on a plane, when I was on the plane the other day and I was just thinking about it, and you're standing there and you're going 550 miles an hour, 500 miles an hour. And when you're sitting there, you don't feel like you're going very fast at all. But it's fast relative to something else, to the Earth below you. And that's all the speed is. It has to be relative to something else. And in terms of our Earth's rotation, how fast are we going? You know? Well, basically at Phoenix latitude, and that's not too far different from Lubbock, I don't think, not that much. But I calculate out, you can calculate that out. You know, from the Earth, it's what is it? Something like 1,000, or from the equator, 1,037 miles an hour at the equator. And at Phoenix, it's going 865 miles an hour. So relative to the Earth encircling it. And around the solar system, or around our sun, we're going 66,600 miles an hour. You know, it's we're moving fast relative, you know, to the other thing. Now our solar system around the galaxy, add another 515,000 miles an hour. And then we've got our galaxy with respect to our local group. We've got our local group to the Virgo cluster. We've got the Virgo cluster to what's called a great attractor. You add up those, and it's over 1 million miles an hour that we're going with respect to the great attractor that we're being pulled into. You know, it's just those things that we don't even notice or think about, but it's still there. And these are relative things, but it's still things that are happening. And it's a very much changing world. and we're a very tiny little part of that. The Earth-Moon system, I had this for another presentation, and it's that how our moon was formed. You know, there was a Mars-sized object that crashed into the Earth about 4.503 billion years ago at kind of this kind of angle here, and blew up most of the Earth and all of that Mars-sized planet, putting that material out into space. And as it accreted and it formed a ring around the Earth about 18,000 miles above the Earth, it started to re-solidify and gradually accreted and became what the size of the moon is. And it was very large, it was very close. So we had huge tides on the Earth, you know, maybe 600 feet up and down, you know, and the Earth was a lot more pliable then than we have now, the crust. So it was a fairly difficult place, you know, for life to be formed, you know, not too long afterward. You know, what about 3.85, I think now, 19 billion years ago. You know, and we're talking about 4.5 billion years ago here. You know, it was this Earth that we live on was a pretty nasty place to be on. We think of it just kind of being the same all the time. You know, we do. But it isn't. It wasn't in the past, and it isn't going to be in the future. Okay, our sun. We talked about that. Just a great big giant hot thermonuclear explosion. A constrained thermonuclear explosion. Okay, and Mercury, I don't want to take too much time because we'll talk about that. It's just a very hot, very close to the sun, and extremely hot. These are relative sizes of Mercury. Venus is fairly close to the size of the Earth, and Mars is much, much smaller. You know, and we can get meteorites off of like the Moon and Mars and Mercury because the escape velocity is small enough that it doesn't have so much gravity, so if something plows into it, it can knock something off the planet. You know, you couldn't do that with Venus. You know, I mean, you've got, it's pretty much as large as the Earth, and it's pretty hard. The Earth is about 11.2 meters per second escape velocity. So that means something's going to be having to go 11.2 meters per every second in order at a constant rate to escape the Earth's velocity. That's pretty fast. That's pretty hard to do. It's only 3 point something on Mars. Okay, there's Mars. There's going to be on August 3rd. There's going to be a Phoenix, where I live, mission that's going to Mars looking for life again. And they're going to be going up really close to the north up here. It's about the 67th degree in latitude. Up in here, a lot of good ice, and they think that their best bet to find any kind of early life would be where there is water. And they've identified the water on surface and likely underneath the surface. And if there's going to be life, that's where it's probably going to be. So they're going to be digging down deep into the Earth. I have to get these training sessions about once every 3 weeks, and the mission director for this was on the last one, was talking about exactly how they're planning to go down deep. And you can get on the NASA website, and a lot of that you can look and find out a lot of those missions if you want to. There's a lot of information that's there about how these are being done. They're really into education. You know, so if you're interested in that, and what they're going to do and how they're trying to find out these things, you know, the resources are there. Let's see. Jupiter's just a huge place. It's got 4 major planets, but how many planets does it have, or moons does it have? When I was a kid, we used to think there was 12 moons to Jupiter. That was just something you memorized, you know, just 12 moons. Now there's but 62. And there's 47 around Saturn, 27 around Uranus, and 13 around Neptune. You know, we discover more once we get up there. Some of them aren't very big. You know, any kind of body, you know, that's circling it is therefore a moon. So we don't decide on something. These are really interesting type bodies. And just very briefly, you know, this is kind of what they look like, and each one of those is different. They have different surfaces. I should have got that back. One is just like a big volcano, volcanic action. Europa is really interesting. And if we're to go to try to find some place to travel when the sun starts to expand and get hot and encompass the Earth or come close to the Earth and at least fry it, Europa may be a place we want to go to, because it looks like there may be some kind of oceans that are underneath the crust of Europa. So they're going to try to find that out. They're going to have missions out to these Martian moons and then one at Saturn as well, to try to see, is there a place that might be compatible? Of course, they're also looking for life in these places too. I mean, that's the primary aim. But in a very long time, if there are anything that look like humans, I think it's going to be more, we're going to make robots, and robots are going to be starting to make themselves, and have a whole new evolutionary development that kind of leaves us in the dust, but that's my own feeling. Saturn has rings. Jupiter actually has a very slight little ring around it that they found. It's a very light ring. All of the outer planets do. Saturn does, Uranus does, and so does Neptune. And some days these rings are going to be gone. You know, in about 1 billion years they're going to be, you know, all gone, all dissipated and crashed into the planet. Uranus, there's just lots of helium, and it's just very, very gaseous. And Neptune's really kind of a beautiful looking planet there. It's a big, big spot there, and it has a very large moon that's almost the size of our own moon called Triton. In Pluto, they discovered another object that's half the size of Pluto, so it's almost like a double planet, and they gravitationally attract each other, so that Charon's going to be moving faster than Pluto is, but they each kind of revolve around themselves. And there's 2 other little satellites or moons that go with it. So there's 3 satellites around Pluto that they never thought of. There's 153 satellites or moons in our solar system. Okay, comets. Those are objects that come from outside. There's 2 types of comets that are kind of what they're called Kuiper belt, that are inside our solar system. And they're icy bodies that have a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of carbon and amino acids and the like. And they've just had that Stardust mission that took dust from Wild 2 comet, and discovered that it's really much more similar to meteorites like this than they thought it was going to be. But I talk about different kinds of, how they're formed and all that. We don't need to get into that. But this will be available to you later if you want. There's another type of that does impact the Earth, what's called an Oort cloud. And that's very far out from our regular solar system that we think of where the planets are. Out to 100,000 astronomical units. That's the distance from the sun to the Earth. So very long, far away out there. And these are little comets and icy bodies that circle all around, spherically, not on our plane, but spherically all around our solar system. And then when other passing stars come close, or other kinds of bodies that are out there, or something gravitationally affects one of these, they very well can come in and become comets, or they can be something that actually impact the Earth too, that we can absolutely have no way to predict. So we can, when looking at asteroids, and get a kind of a track on what the orbit is, and figure out, like in 2038, they think there's going to be a meteorite that's going to come very, very close to the Earth. And so they're kind of worried about that, and they're going to be checking that out all the time. But with a comet, yeah, there's no way to know that. Okay, these are different planetary missions that, with respect to going to the Sun, and to Mars, and the comet Wild 2, and Wild, they say Wild, not Wild, Jupiter, and then Saturn and Titan, the largest of its moons, and the solar system and beyond. You know, so those are kind of the major missions that are not going up to the space stations and whatnot. So again, this will be made available if you're interested, and you can get this later. Now, the future of our solar system. There's different things that are going to happen. And this is what I think about humanity in general, and the changes in what we are. I mentioned the Milky Way and Andromeda that are coming at a rate toward each other at 720,000 miles an hour. Okay, and so in 4 billion years they're going to collide. Then we've got it's possible that our solar system is going to be ejected from the Milky Way itself. It's just going to be eradicated from it. There's also things that can happen from comets, as I mentioned. The moon someday. You know, the moon, when it was 18,000 miles above the Earth, has been moving out steadily. And each year it moves out about 1.5 centimeters from the Earth. And at a certain point, you know, it's going to get out, and what's going to happen is going to change, it stabilizes our precision. The way our Earth, you know, stays at an angle like this for our seasons. And when we lose that moon effect and being able to stabilize, that stabilizing effect, then like Mars and some of the other planets, we're going to, you know, it's going to start wobbling at random. And it's going to change our seasons, it's going to change a lot of you know, life as we know it, you know, on Earth. There's a lot of different things that are definitely going to happen to, you know, to our Earth. Well, just even now, you know, we're in an interglacial period. You know, for the last 2 million years, our Earth has been undergoing an ice age. And then we have various, they last for about 90 or 100,000 years, and then we have these interglacial periods of an average around 11,000, 12,000 years. And about 12,000 years ago was the end of the last ice age, you know, the last ice advancement. And so we're right at the very end of this now. Global warming is helping keep that from coming, you know, evidently. The problem is, though, not only the problems that associated with global warming, but so say the people that are studying this, is that there's going to be almost a rubber band effect, that we're going to be, you know, up pushing and saving this off of the ice age by the global warming, but at a certain point it's just going to come right back really fast, and within maybe 10 years to 100 years, I'll be right in the middle of an ice age again and ice advancements. So that New York City is going to be under ice, and you know, and our society is going to be very much different. You know, we're going to have so many people that we keep making people all the time, and where are we going to have food? If all of Canada and northern part of the United States and Europe is all under ice, and you've got the South America and all that too, you know, the lower part of South America and Australia under ice, that makes all the populations having to move toward the equatorial areas, and so that means more people crowded into a much smaller place. You can imagine the social impact. And these are things that the people that study this say are definitely going to happen. You know, it just is part of the way our Earth works. It's not going to affect us or our children, but it's going to affect some of our descendants, and maybe not too far down the line, we just don't know. What about humanity? Well, there's different ways that humanity itself can, you know, what are we going to do in the future? Are we going to have to move to another planet, or make a space station where certain people, we can't get on the space station? I have to hurry this up. We're almost out of time. Are we going to create self-conscious androids and have a new evolutionary advancement that they don't have the same kind of problems that we do in terms of adjusting to the elements? Asteroidal impacts that are surely going to happen. You know, it's just a matter of time. There's all sorts of problems that are facing humanity down the line. Some may not be too far down the line. And it makes us think, in terms of the way I think, in terms of how insignificant we are. Here we are, look at here, you know, just some of the things. You go back to the Big Bang, was 13.7 billion years ago. And here's some of the other, kind of when the first mammals were, the first primates. All this amounts of time, and here we are in our little 76 years, and everything is so important to us, and you know, life and death issues of whether you leave a toothpaste on or something. You know, they aren't that important. One way to not feel like you've got to fight and worry is to start thinking about our placement in the great scheme of things. You know, we become much more willing to let things go, I think, than we do when we think that we're just so completely self-absorbed with the present. And this is our place in the scheme of things. One thing I want to leave with before we go is this, and I never see anybody talk about it. What about the Neanderthals? The Neanderthals were a race of human beings.
And they were a race that lived from around 200 to 300,000 years ago and died out 28,000 years ago. Probably at the hands of Homo sapiens. We probably did them in. The Neanderthals buried their dead. They covered them with red ochre. They put antlers with them and elaborate burial ceremonies. They probably had very deep religious feelings. Don't know the kinds, but certainly thinking that somehow, you know, that the bodies were going to maybe need these kinds of things, the food articles and whatnot that were left for them or whatnot. But there was something maybe to their mind that was beyond them. So that means that they were self-conscious. They thought about themselves. They weren't just like animals or monkeys or apes or whatnot. That they thought about the world, somewhat like we do maybe. In a very harsh world. They were right in the middle of the Ice Age. And they lived around other, when they think about human beings, there were other human beings, other types of human beings around. No, not just them. It was kind of us that get them. So they had those kind of problems. But they became extinct. And probably when they were sitting and thinking around campfires and thinking of themselves, generation after generation, we're talking 300,000 to 80,000, that's a lot of years, a lot longer than Homo sapiens been around. And certainly, historical Homo sapiens been around. That's a fairly short time for our history of 6,000 to 7,000 years. And we're talking about 300,000 years or 275,000 years. And here with that whole history they had, they didn't have a lot of advancements, they had tools and all that kind of stuff and fire, but they're gone. So when human beings think that they can just do anything with their environment, they can do anything with, you know, thinking that they are the savior and they're going to be God's instrument blowing up the world and saving it, there may not be anybody there afterward. It may be that our whole history, our whole humanity, from the Julius Caesars to the Buddhas and the Jesuses and all that, when the earth is sterile and nothing on it but bacteria, that's it. And if there's no other human or other kind of conscious beings that are going to know about that, let's say, then it's almost as if we weren't even here. In the great scheme of things, of course. So our meaning of life in that sense is what we make of it, you know, ourselves, in the here and now. What we find important, what we work for, and how we try to live our lives, and what we try to understand, and how we relate to people, and our friends, and our sociabilities, and whatnot. I think that's it for today.
I thought Joe was going to end on a very depressing note there, but it seemed like he pulled it out just at the last second. I was really getting bummed, but that was, you know, I think we finally got we were going to have a song, but in the interest of time, I'd just like to point your attention to the words in the order of service. It's the words by John Lennon, the song Imagine. And in lieu of closing words, I'd just like you to pull that out and look at it. That was a request of Joe's, and it's a great song, and we'll do it again sometime. And I'm sorry for the other two folks. I don't think we have time to do it right now. So if you could you join me in singing "Carry the Flame"? I'll give you the note. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. As a transition from our Sunday service to the week's activity, allow me to quickly share information about upcoming events important to this congregation.